שלום לכולם.
Are you ready?
You can start. As you present me, I will try to put my pages in.
שלום לכולם. אנחנו שמחים לפתוח את הערב הזה עם שתי הרצאות עם קריסטין לזניק, אורחת של פורום לאקאן תל-אביב. מארי קריסטין לזניק מגיעה מפריז, היא דוקטור בפסיכולוגיה, אנליטיקאית, חברה באלי, האסוציאציון לאקאניאנית אינטרנציונל, חוקרת בתחום האוטיזם מזה שנים רבות, ועוסקת גם בטיפול במבוגרים ובמחקר. היא כתבה הרבה מאמרים שתורגמו לשפות רבות, אתם יכולים למצוא אותם באתר שלה. יש 3 מאמרים שלה מתורגמים לעברית גם באתר של הפורום, והיא כתבה 2 ספרים, האחד אל הדיבור והשני התשוקה או העיווי שלא ניתן לחשוב עליו. והמאמרים שלה מופיעים גם בספרים אחרים. הערב היא תציג בפנינו את המאמר החדשני שלה, החשיבה החדשנית שלה, שבה היא משלבת את ההוראה של לאקאן מתקופות שונות, בשאלה האם ניתן לחשוב על קליניקה של הקשר הבורומאי שתבחין בין פסיכוזה ואוטיזם. בבקשה.
So, yes, I will first of all apologize of not speaking Hebrew. אני לא מדברת עברית, and to speak a bad English, and the worst will be that for topology, I don't have the translation of this paper in English. I have lots of papers in English, but not that. The clinical presentation will be in English, but here I have Daphne to help me, because this presentation on topology, I will try to do it in French and translate it in Hebrew. And as I don't find my pages, I don't know where you will be. It's marvelous, because the numbers are not good. It starts well. They are all mixed together.
Okay.
So, I don't know, in the presentation I understood some parts, but I don't know if you spoke about my interest for female sexuality.
I think I intended to, I'm not sure I did.
That I don't work only with autism, and I'm an adult psychoanalyst, and a part of my time now, I'm in love with the clinics of babies in danger of autism. And the reason why I decided to give time to topology has 2 reasons. First of all, the Laakanians are the psychoanalysts who are less taken in account by the researchers in autism, because they mix together autism and psychosis. Colette Soler wrote, I don't know, 10 years ago at least, that we didn't need to make this confusion, because in the 2 processes to become a subject, alienation and separation, the children who will become autists has a problem with this prime point. They don't enter inside alienation. And the psychotic children, they don't go through separation, but nobody took care of them. And the question is that making this confusion that comes from the fact that lots of Laakanians imagine that to be Laakanian, you must imagine that there are 3 structures: neurosis, psychosis, and perversion. As an autistic child is not neurotic, it's not perverse, it must be a case of psychosis. And Miller has created a new constellation, is that crois que c'est la psychose généralisée ou la psychose ordinaire. With that, it's marvelous because the ordinary psychosis is exactly the DSM-5 in the United States. The DSM-5 with the, you have to be in the DSM-5 in the United States to earn money from the government to treat your child. So they put everything together. So everybody's saying, oh, what a pity, how are stupid these Americans. They make confusion because what we call psychosis, it's called non-specific autism. Okay, so it's stupid, it's everything mixed together. If you can explain me the difference of making, like Miller, everything in this psychose ordinaire, I will be very happy because I don't see the difference. And I have a problem more than that, is that the Americans have done that for practical reasons, money reasons. If you are not in the DSM-5, you don't earn money from the government to treat the baby. And which is the interest of putting everybody in the psychose ordinaire? You don't earn money for that, you make only confusion. And the reason is that Miller is a very intelligent person, but he does not like topology. So he stayed in the Lacan previous of topology. So he needs neurosis, psychosis, and perversion, as thousands of psychoanalysts, even in my society, because they imagine that's Lacan. It's not absolutely not Lacan. That's the French psychiatry school who comes from the German psychiatry school. Lacan, when he arrived in the psychiatry, he found that, and he uses what he found. In the end of his life, he made new tools that allowed us for very interesting things. But you have to pay the price, is to understand topology. But the price can be interesting, because you have a tool that is more sensitive and you don't say things so general, like Americans does. Everybody says that's not a classification, the DSM-5. It's an espèce of melting pot. But if you do a melting pot in psychoanalysis classification, so that's the interest of topology. But I was a little bit preoccupied with the fact that you are not introduced, for some of you, in topology, and that you could be bored. But let's try to work. I was for 30 years, 40 years sure that with topology we could find a way of making the discrimination between psychosis and autism. That we could write a knot for autism different of the knot of psychosis. And that we could use it in clinics. And the idea came to me when Lacan used the first unique reference that I know to understand clinics with the knots, is that when he's reading James Joyce, he is reading a small book, autobiography book of Joyce. You stop me when it's no more English and it's no more anything, and you translate in Hebrew.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, and I'm going to ask, because I'm not going to translate Lacan from the French to my bad English, and I don't have, so the reference is Lacan is very interested with what happened with Joyce. In that portrait of the young artist, Joyce remembers something of his useness. He has been attacked, and very badly, by friends of his friends, colleagues. He didn't have friends, colleagues. And what's very strange, that he didn't mind. He didn't mind, as if the suffering in his body was not his body. Alors, I don't know how to translate the idea of an envelope falling down, because the colleagues has really bad treated him. Je ne sais pas comment on peut traduire ça. Ils l'ont fouetté, ils l'ont attaché avec des fils de fer barbelés.
הם הרביצו וקשרו אותו עם חוטי ברזל.
And he didn't mind. And he says, Lacan says, it was as if his body has fallen down comme une envelope, like an envelope.
כמו מעטפה, כמו קליפה.
That was very interesting because the connection of an artist with its body is almost like that. And Lacan says that the relation with the body for every one of us is difficult. But in this case, it's absolutely incredibly, how do we say, completely, incredibly separated. So he writes a knot. It's not, let's see.
נוט במובן של קשר.
That knot is, yes, no, okay. That knot is not the famous Borromean knot. I suppose that you all heard about the Borromean knot. That would be ours if we were in good health. But there is a big discussion. Can we have only a Borromean knot, or do we need a force to take everything together? There's a big discussion among Lacanians. But I'm letting that play in peace. What I was very interested, it was in the description that Lacan gives from this knot that is not Borromean, because the body can't be connected with the other two instances. You know, these three instances that Lacan works through since the seminar where he discusses Dick is the connection between real, imaginary, and symbolic. So here, he calls the symbolic inconscience when he wrote it. Here he says the imaginary, the body's, the imaginary consistence is not connected with. So I have the happiness of showing that to you. It falls down. Let's see it falling down. Oh, yeah. Did you see it? It falls down. It's proved. It falls down because you don't have the knot, the Borromean knot. So, and that's very interesting for clinics with autism. You know, I think that one of the reasons they make self-mutilation is to try to find a connection with this famous body that is out of their experience of being with. We could pass 1 week working on the problems between autism and body and the non-constitution of that body. But here it was marvelous. So what Lacan says about James Joyce is that his work of artist, of writer, allowed him to have a force knot that makes the look, that is going to make something that put the three others together, you see? I like PowerPoint because we can see it easily. So,
je me fatigue de d'écrire un minimum de 4 heures par jour, et je consacre mes ouvrages s'équilibrent. Si j'écris...
So, we have what I call the Joyce of the Poor. It's a very well-known writer. Her name is Amélie Nothomb. We know that there are at least 3 books in Hebrew. Written, she's translated in 35 languages, and she wrote a very interesting book, not translated in Hebrew. The name is La Métaphysique des Tu. And what she tells here, and she was she was so successful with the first book. She was invited to come to television and very important programs. She told every day what happened. I don't mind. If I can't sleep, I won't. Even I have to come here, so I won't sleep. But I have to read They have to write 4 hours. 4 hours reading, 4 hours writing. So she's doing something that probably has connection with what Joyce makes. It's not so marvelous as Joyce, but she is the most well-known French writer in the world today. She is translated in 35 languages. And she's probably has exactly the same thing, that she has not a Borromean knot, and she needs to read and write to allow it to be together. She only edits 1 book a year, but probably she writes 10, because she has to write and read. And that's the way to be able not to go into pieces. Ça va jusque-là?
Oui.
So the question was, how could I find a way to write and not for autistic children? And how could I manage to understand where would be the failures? And then I met a Brazilian philosopher and psychoanalyst who made her thesis, PhD, on la tresse de Lacan. Tresse?
הצמות של לאקאן. הכליאה של 3 המשלבים.
Yes, and she was interested to imagine what it could happen in babies, but she has no experience at all in babies, so she was picking in Lacan ideas he said about babies, but Lacan has no experience of babies also. So we worked together to be able to put together her knowledge about la tresse. How do we say tresse in English?
צמה. Braid.
Braid.
Yeah.
And in Hebrew?
צמה.
Sama. She knows very well how it goes, and my knowledge about babies, to see where could be the errors in the tresse that would make the problem. I don't know if I brought you a normal. Yes, let's see. Lacan uses that once, and he will use again in the last seminar. I will let the last seminar here. Lacan uses this tresse in the 73, and he writes it with imaginary in green, real in red, and symbolic in blue. And how he makes it. So he makes it not speaking really about the baby, because to do that, it means that I think that we don't receive the not when we enter in the world, but there is an historicity. That's the discussion. I think that we can't be therapists of babies and small child if we don't think there is an historicity. That if I receive the not or the Borromean not or no, like la grâce chez Pascal, you are not Catholics, but the discussion among the religions is that, do you receive the grâce? How do you say la grâce? God's grace,
yeah.
From God. It comes from the sky, and you do nothing. Or you have an historicity. Things happen and have an importance in the way you are going to be structured. So we use the la tresse to think something is happening for the baby. It means that for me, the real is the organism of the baby. The imaginary is the capacity of the Nebenmensch, of the big other, of the small other who will become big other if things goes well, to have an anticipatory illusion. So,
אשליה מצפה, שהאחר תהיה לו אשליה מצפה לגבי התינוק שהוא ממשי.
and that the symbolic is what allows a place for the baby in the symbolic field. Huh? Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. So Lacan writes, because le trait, it's a way of writing thing. He writes, putting in the first connection to arrive to a Borromean knot, you need to think that the real is over the symbolic. That's very important, you know, because the first Lacan of the years 53, 54 gave to the symbolic a preeminent place. When I arrived in Paris, I was making my psychoanalysis with him and going to the seminar. I was very interested by the fact he was saying in the beginning of the 70s, not the beginning of the 50s, that the three consistents were as important one and the other. So it's not that everything is symbolic. If there is a problem, it's a symbolic problem. It's when one consistency is not in the good place, we have problems. So it's very interesting that he writes that he puts the real over the symbolic. We decided to translate it that the real is more important at that moment than the symbolic. How to translate it in terms of psychoanalysis? We have the project, the esquisse, how do we call it? The project.
הפרויקט של פרויד.
It's a very important paper on Freud for Lacan, and it speaks about baby. And the baby is, you have the Nebenmensch, the prochain secourable, must take care.
הנבנמנש זה האחר שחש לעזרה, שמטפל בילד.
He must work to allow the baby not to feel so much excitation. That's the work of the environment of the prochain secourable.
האחר שחש לעזרה, שמטפל.
And so it's not a question of symbolic. If the father is the king and the baby is crying and everybody stops and takes the baby, the newborn, because we have to stop the excitation, we have to take care of the newborn. So we write it like that, you see? The real is more important than the symbolic. I'm going to show you baby suffering. Translate the sentence.
בשם התינוק, כואב לי, תכף רופא יבוא וייתן לי תרופה.
That's a baby who could become autistic. It's not a baby that I'm going to show in Israel. She's 1 month and 1 week. She's the sister of an autistic boy. I'm receiving her because the autistic boy came to a consultation, and we worked from this day for some months with the mother, and then it was finished. And one of the things was to treat the refluxes.
ריפלקס, אתם יודעים, זה עלייה של חומצה מהקיבה.
And to treat refluxes, because babies suffering when they have difficulties in contact, it's terrible, because a future artist is perfectly able to put all his energy into his sufferings and be absolutely not here for contact. It's something that you can understand that? No.
מה? אני אומרת שברגע שלתינוק יש ריפלקס, עלייה של חומצה, הכאב כל כך גדול שהוא עסוק בכאב והוא לא פנוי לקשר.
So it's interesting that you have it written in the trace. First thing, the real must go on the symbolic. Second point, that's very interesting because it has everything to do with His Majesty the Baby in Freud. So first has to do with the project, l'esquisse. And the second is His Majesty the Baby. What's happening here? Here, the imaginary will be more important than the real. It means that what's the anticipatory illusion, His Majesty the Baby? You have a poor newborn, maybe it's an awful baby, but everybody's looking at it as if it was the Christ again. God arriving in the world. It's what Freud says. The baby must be in the place of the divinity, of the place of the king, His Majesty the Baby. It means that the imaginary must be more important than the real of the organism. As a reality, it's a poor thing. So let's do that very slowly. First of all, how can we imagine that in Lacan theory that point is developed? Because we have to find the basis of the mirror stage. So first of all, remember that, I suppose you know, but I remember you the Bois schema, that Lacan introduced to understand Dick's case of Melanie Klein. It means to understand the case of autism. Melanie Klein's Dick is the first description of an autism in the world. Even the behaviorists, the organicists, they all say it's the first description of an autism. She speaks about schizophrenia because the word autism hasn't been introduced. We are in 32, and Kanner will make 11 years after the description of autism. So she does not use the word, but it's absolutely, and when you read Lacan reading Melanie Klein, it's a marvelous description of autism. To understand that, he introduces Bois, because he wants to understand the connection between imaginary, symbolic, and real. So you know that you have not a real object, it's a pot. When I was younger, we used to make a pot, you know, to make pea inside. So more like the bébé. And you have a pot, and you have this famous miroir convex, convex mirror. You know that the convex mirror can make some magic things. So you put flowers under the table, and because of the qualities of the mirror, we will see the flowers on the vase. They are not there. Let's see if I have them. Yes, you see here the flowers on the vase. They are not there. It's an imaginary object, not a real object. But you don't need to make so many pictures because we have it in Hebrew, no? Mm-hmm. You can have the paper in Hebrew with all the yes. So you don't need to. You have it in Hebrew with all the
illustrations.
So that's very interesting for us. But there is a condition. Take care. For being able to the eye of the observer to be able to look both together, you need to put the eye of the observer in a certain circumstances inside the cone. Cone?
The
cone. And these are under the cone, because if you don't look at that point, you won't see this pure, incredible story of seeing a real thing, the organism, with something that is not there. And what's marvelous, that painters, we can put the light down because we can't see how painters are clever if we don't close the light, shut the lights. Oh, it's difficult. Look, they're behind you. Come on here. come on near me, please, that they can more.
Be careful, you'll fall.
Yes, yes. It's, you have the sentences, you have the, when you don't know, oh my God, what happened now? Yes. It's difficult to see, yes, because there are sentences.
There are words, rights.
Words and the face of the Virgin. So I don't know, you don't know if you know something about Catholics and Christians. They say that Yeshua was born from a woman who received the God gave the baby, and it was Daniel. Daniel is always mixed with problems. With the Muslims, with the Christians, that he's always there. Daniel arrives and says to her, she will have a baby who will be a God. So it allows her to look at him as a God, because there was these sentences, and it's beautiful because they are written like that, you see. And the face of the Virgin is in the middle.
The prophet, Daniel the prophet.
No, the angel.
Ah, the angel.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the angel, you see that, look, he has everything to flow down. You know, angels arrive to women sometimes. That's the Annunciation. It's Fra Angelico. I don't know if you know Fra Angelico, but he's very clever in terms of psychoanalysis. So that's the beginning. It allows that she sees the baby with that marvelous thing. But let me show you. It's real like that, please. Everybody can see the baby? Mm-hmm. So you have a poor, small baby. But when the Virgin and Yossi are looking at the baby, they look and they see something better than flowers, because they see gold all around the baby. So the divinity is the body, who is a pure organism, it's real organism, and the imaginary around, that is this light that you see in all the churches. You have lights to know that you are in front of a divinity. It's interesting, something, and then you see together, because she receives the word before, to see it together, and then, no doubt, it's not a poor baby, it's the divinity. Okay? And that is necessary for every baby. Not to be Yeshua, but to be a certain time the divinity arriving, His Majesty the baby. Alors, but we're Lacannians, so stop. If the woman is like that all time, it's the problem of Joyce's mother. She's all time like that, because her husband is a poor man. But in normal situation, the divinity is divinity during half an hour, let's say, 10 minutes. And then we put the divinity in the bed. Divinity goes, sleep, divinity. And mom goes with father. And that's an action, a very interesting action, because you see that the symbolic is going over the imaginary. That's castration. But see, the castration is an operation of the symbolic on the imaginary, not in the real of the organism. If you let the baby crying because it's suffering, it's not castration. That's, you're treating like a dog, not a human being. In human being, the symbolic castration is that the baby stops to be a god to go to bed. Allez, up, bed, it's finished the god. So it's on its imaginary position that the castration operates. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. So now we have that are the three ones. You must know that it's probably thousands of times it happens, not only one. Chuck, 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 chuck. The fourth is the same as the first. you have the real of the body that must continue being more important than the symbolic. It means the baby is suffering. There is too much excitation. We come back to the project. What the mother has to do, what the Nebenmensch has to do, what the person who has in care the baby to become the big other, the small other, has to help the baby to loud excitation. It's very difficult with autistic babies for many reasons, and one of they suffer really very much of bone problems. So you can make everything you want. If you don't treat, it's difficult to do this job. And it's difficult the first time more than that one, because sometimes it's a little bit easier around 4th month. And the 5th, you know very well, it's the mirror stage. Lacan is very clear, and that Miller is very clear too when he writes in the écrit, when he makes the organization, he says there is only one reference to time in the development in Lacan. You need at least 6 months to arrive here. It's not something that happens immediately. This mirror stage needs time. So the three first are black, 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 and then you can or not continue. But the number 5 and number 6. Is it clear or not? I'm going to show you that the mirror stage must be, it's not the way Lacan speaks in the écrit, because the mirror stage of the écrit is gestaltic one. The mirror stage, interesting, starts in the transference seminar, because he changed. Look at beautiful mirror stage. Baby's looking at the mirror, but what's interesting baby? What interests babies? It's the way she looks, the way her mother looks at her in the mirror. That makes, there is no difference with Winnicott, because Winnicott read the mirror stage and said, no, Lacan is wrong. It's not because the baby looks at him and then the unity is okay, because it's like for birds. It started with birds, that story. No, it's the face of the eyes of the mother, and it's real, look. But you have it in a certain moment in Lacan. I'm going to try to show it to you. Okay. Here, the mirror is called A. It means that the mirror is the grand autre. It's no more a mirror of the Gestalt theory, a mirror of coming from the ethologic researches. The mirror, what the baby looks in the mirror, is the fact that we are amazed by the divinity we're looking at. So the baby is amazed by the fact of being phallically invested. It's a language that?
Is it?
Because I have no translation of that in English. That's the reason why I'm so proud. So, here you see, we have the same we had before. You have the eye looking, that's the Urbild of the mirror stage we saw in the number 2. And you have something that where the baby can itself look in the mirror and see what? The eye that makes him completely marvelous. And since, I don't know when, I think it's the identification. Lacan says that when you look yourself in the mirror, you don't see you phallicized. You see you with minus phi. Minus phi?
Yeah.
And that's very easy. When I teach all these things to doctors, to allow them to understand how to see babies with autism, I say to them, they are generally women, I don't know, dans les PMI, the place where you put babies, where babies go to receive vaccination.
עם טיפת חלב.
I don't know, but in France they are almost women. I don't know where.
In Israel too.
So I say to them, look, in the morning we look in the mirror and we start saying, oh, I'm so tired, look like that, and that doesn't go. And their husband arrives. Say, but you are marvelous, my dear. I love you. And then up, we are beautiful again. And that is because we have the glance of somebody who is in place of big A for us. And when we meet a colleague, don't imagine it goes, because the colleague says, you're doing too much conferences, you're really tired. So we are not, absolutely not with the flowers. Huh? We are with the minus phi. How do you say it?
We use it, minus phi.
Minus phi. So the doctors understand it very easily. So this needs the glance, the voice, the glance of the big other. That can be the lover. I hope for you that your husbands continue doing that, because if they start saying, you're right, you're becoming old, it's terrible. And the terrible story of, comment elle s'appelle, the bad queen de la Blanche-Neige. She's asking the mirror, and stupid mirror says, yes, you're beautiful, but the girl is more beautiful than you. She becomes immediately an awful and old person. The mirror has nothing to say that. What stupid idea of the mirror. And it's a voice, you see, it's a mirror voice. Remember the story of the stepmother, but it's a mother. The question is answered by a voice. So, but that's very important, is because in the case I'm going to show, we will have problems here. Between imaginary and symbolic, the name of the father has to deserve. We will have to have a separation, because this in the mirror is alienation. We have to make separation. That was in Freud, it's connected with the idea of entering in Oedipus for the girl and going out of the Oedipus for boys. So the boy must agree with castration. He won't have this lady for him. He will have to wait until he's an adult. It's terrible. Then, if all these things goes together, we have that. Look up. I love PowerPoint. And that is the Boromian typical knot. What happened with the baby? That's the knot of the castrated person who does need help, but everything is good. Huh? So, we're going to start by problems in the second point. To start problems in what Lacan called at certain moments urbild of the speculary image.
urbild זה דמות מקדימה של האני.
That's the word he uses. What happening here when the baby is surrounded with His Majesty, the crown of His Majesty, the baby? What he knows is that in the voice and way of looking of the Nebenmensch, the small order becoming the big order, is la source de surprise et de joie. Comment on dit ça?
הוא מקור ההפתעה והעונג.
but we need conditions for that. We are here in the narcissic phallic field. I took years to understand. During years, I could not understand something that my friend Jean Bergès uses to repeat. He said it's not the parent who gives that only, because if it were only the parents that are able, because they are in a good position, to look at the baby like a god, like a king, and it's okay. If there is problems, the problem is with the parents. It's okay. He said, no, what is invested by the parents, it's not the image of the baby, but the movement. He was neurologist, Jean Bergès. What is invested is that, look, oh, can you see the baby or not? Huh? Yes. Can you?
Yes.
What allows a baby to be invested is his movement or his voice. It's something coming from. C'est le fonctionnement de la fonction, the functioning of the function. That's 1 week working together. But you can see, but you can tell me, oh, that was the painting because it was the artist who painted Jesus, Yeshua, like that. He can do that because he's God. And regular baby won't do that so early. I'm going to show you a 3 hours baby in a research, and every 3 hours baby is able to do that. So that's a researcher teaching a baby of some hours to make imitation with the she's not doing that, but she could, because sometimes she teaches with 2 fingers. So the baby's being taught to make imitation, you see? Mm-hmm. And baby's making imitation, you see? That's if the baby's not too tired, not sick, baby can do that. But she's going to do something very interesting that interests us in terms of drive. Because Lacan introduced something very interesting in drive and its vicissitudes. The text of Freud in 1915, he said the time passive is not so passive. The ish makes itself the object of the other. So see this baby, and it's a regular baby. She's not looking at the baby anymore. She's letting the baby. And you're going to see what the baby is going to do some minutes after. Look, who starts now? You see? She's going to answer, but the baby is provoking, she says. So it's, for me, it's invocatory drive. That's marvelous, Lacan's idea of invocatory drive. You see the baby? That's a regular baby. So don't tell me that the baby that can do that, it's God. No, any baby can make movements in direction. Not so clear, but movements that can make, they can call. They can make, look at. I'm going to show. That's my granddaughter. She's 15 days, and she was born 15 days before. Look what she does. So to say it's common, babies are very interested in human beings, and they respond and they do movements. And what you invest without knowing, it's not because the baby is blonde or blue eyes or the skin. It's what you invest is some movements. It's what he named the fonctionnement de la fonction. I took 20 years to understand that. That's a regular baby too. He's going to have the third time of the drive circuit. He's making himself be eaten by his mother. Huh? And she says we could eat such a baby. So the investment.
Bravo, dis donc, t'es trop fière tes pieds, toi. Bravo.
We are working through this in France, through the difference from narcissistic investment and drive, but there's no place now to. But now she passed from drive, from sexuality with the baby. She said she was going to eat such a delicious baby. It was a little bit hard. The Lacan writes about that. Huh?
Ma?
Oh, nobody understands what I say?
No, they
My
don't
God.
hear, no, they don't hear you because they are too far from the microphone.
Yes, but please say it. I have a bad English, and if you don't understand my bad English, please, it's better like that? Yes. Okay. So here you have the question of narcissism against the question of drive. That could be a very good, interesting day of discussion, because Lacan says things about making new opposition when he says that all the drives are sexual, and he puts out of the field of the drives everything connected with instinct and survival. He put all that in the narcissistic field of love, and it's very interesting for this kind of clinics. That's very interesting because it's the baby you saw crying, you remember? Mm. I said she is the sister of a very autistic, an autistic boy. And she is only 2.5 months. So I don't know how she managed to put her small foot like that, you see? Mm-hmm. And the mom is giving kisses, but she is making something from herself. Can you see it in the picture? There is a movement of her. She turns like that. And then you're going to see them later on. Look how she's looking at her mother. So the investment is all these things, not the fact that the baby has a beautiful skin and beautiful eyes. And the fact it does not depend only on the mother, but it depends only on the baby. I'm speaking for 20 minutes, my God. So let's that for another day. Because what time is it, please?
It's almost 7.
And how long do we have?
Another half an hour or 40 minutes.
So let's go quickly. So, so the fact that the baby, the parents of an autistic baby has enormous difficulties to make libidinal investment of the baby because the baby does not help. Not help the parents and not help other human beings. And the fact that you can't have this second knot, the second intersection, will have consequences in all the stress.
Kצמה.
No, but I'm going to let Amélie. So, le nœud borroméen, you see the 3 times.
הקשר הבורומאי.
You saw it, how it goes. You remember? Is it clear or not? We are doing it again. Before looking at what can happen. That's the mirror stage, and that's when the metaphor of the father's name is active. And then you have a regular here it's not round, it's easier to make in computers. You have a regular Borromean knot. What happens in autism? Let's see. First of all, the baby is suffering so much that it's very difficult for parents to do the right thing. They try, but they can't because the baby is suffering. So the first experience of the baby is that the Nebenmensch is unable to put down the excitations of the interior body, because suffering, like when you are hungry, it's felt like excitation. So it's very difficult for the baby to have the experience of parents are allowing him to feel better. Up. Second problem, it's very difficult for parents to to see His Majesty the baby, because the baby gives not any element to allow in narcissic or libidinal investment. Generally, babies has no problem with the future artist, has no problem with the third time. That's generally the case we're going to see. It's a very complicated one in terms of topology, but generally the parents used to put them in bed and do things as they need. We have very often this baby is around 6 months, does not suffer so much because you enter with it, they have less, moins de refluxes, because you have a diversity. Because you have diversification in alimentation, and many times it's possible, easier. But what never happens is the mirror stage. Not at that age. You will see the daughter will present at 8. She will arrive in the mirror stage, but around 1 year and 2 months, or something like that. And because of the job, the work we have done around. Because you put a baby who will become autistic in front of a mirror, like a cat. It's the same relation. So you have 3 wrong things here. 1, 2, and 5. Generally, there are parents that are not psychotic, so they organize things. The question of castration is okay. And then you have a special knot, where the real and the symbolic are together, but this poor body is not together. So it looks like Joyce. So you're going to say to me, oh, you're saying Joyce is autistic. No, I'm not saying that, and I will dream with you what could happen to Joyce. You will see that to have the same consequence, you can have a different history. So what happened for Joyce? I think that he didn't suffer when he was a baby. I'm sure, because he wouldn't never be so famous artist, that he was His Majesty the baby, completely for mom, completely, God. There was no father, the father was a drunk man, so I suppose that to put him in bed and to say, now I'm going to be daddy, was difficult. So for sure, it's a baby who suffered very much the fact that she was always exciting him and looking at him, and there was no symbolic castration. That's my idea. And the problem is that when you are exciting a baby and not putting it in bed, the consequences, all the pediatricians know, it's the physical consequence. Baby is too excited, so the baby is bad in his own body. So the number 4, where the real of the organism must be the most important, even most important than symbolic, It's not possible because she excited him so much that it's difficult for this baby to be well with his own organism. I suppose that there was a mirror stage, and we know that it was terrible in the end. Lacan says that, because there was no father at all, there was a drunk man somewhere in the soil. So my idea that the three errors in this sur la natte
כצמה?
are in 3, 4, and 6. That's a dream. And I have, in this case, I will have the same difficulty, but it's in front, you see, that the body, the organism, the imaginary won't make connection with the other two. And it's not an autism. We can have different accidents in connection with the fact that in the end the body is out without being autistic necessarily. Is it clear or not? Before I go through to psychosis, I think that it would be interesting if we discuss it 2 minutes, no?
בבקשה, יש לכם, זה ברור, יש לכם
At least for people who are a little bit more, not completely scandalized with knots and...
Maybe you can... Maybe you can explain why in this case the knot is not connected, is not...
You see that different errors in the...
Yes.
In the story of the baby can give that situation. So if the baby is too much excited by the mother, if the baby suffers because it doesn't sleep enough, and if there is no metaphor of the father to take him out, it can have the same problem as an autistic baby's, with a very different story. But in terms of having the body out of the 3 connections, so having this body like an envelope falling down, it can happen to both, with different stories.
Okay.
Is it a little bit clearer?
Yes, Kristi.
I want to ask about, I have a confusion because you speak about the autistic children, so it seems like...
Baby.
The autistic baby. So it seems like he was born autistic.
Huh?
He was born autistic.
No, because the story is different.
Now,
The story of Joyce is completely different.
How can you speak about an autistic baby? He is somebody that is cunning and he is autistic. It's something constitutional.
I speak about a baby who won't be able, one, to relieve from his pain. Because it's a pain that the parents can't relieve with only taking care like that. A baby who is not interested or not able, I don't enter in that discussion here, of making movements to allow parents to invest them. And as that point does not exist, I know that the mirror stage won't be constituted. So I have 3 problems. If I found these 3 problems, I'm going to autism. Because my question when I received the 1 month baby is to change the story. My question is to work differently with the 3 fils, comme on dit, les 3 fils.
החוטים, 3 החוטים.
I'm arriving in the moment, I arrive before the mirror stage. And my story is to change the way the knot will be done. I think that we psychoanalysts can change things. But I know where I have to go because topology helps me to know where I have to go. For instance, I know that's very important for topological reasons, not let the babe suffering so much. You saw what I was saying to the small baby. Because suffering like that, this kind of a regular baby who is able to make like that and be invested by the parent because the baby makes the movements. If it suffers, it's not a tragedy. It's not good for the baby, but he passed through. But if it's a baby that's unable to make movements in direction of the other, so he won't be invested libidinally, he won't be His Majesty the baby, because parents need movements to be able to do that. And he suffers. Oh, danger! I have to stop suffering. And that's for topological reasons. Is it a little bit clearer or not?
Yes, I am agree, but it's in danger to be an autistic baby. It's not an autistic baby.
Yes, yes.
He's not born as an autistic baby. He's in danger to become an autistic baby.
Yes, so you are exactly saying, like me, that there is an historicity. But the autistic babies, for me, what happened when I meet him with 1 year or 2, you know, it's clear. Parents bring me very often 2.5 years old children. And they walk like that in the demi-pointe, how do you say it? Huh? And they're running and running. I start saying, this baby hasn't made cat pat.
לא הולך על 4 רגלים, על 4.
How do you know it?
לא זכר.
Oh, your baby cried very much. Oh, and your baby made like that behind. But how do you know all these things? I'm reading in what I see 2.5 years what happened to the baby in the first months. So when a baby becomes autistic, these accidents has happened. I don't know if, but when I'm with the 1 month, 2 months, 3 months baby, I think that I can change the tresse, comment on dit?
את הכליאה של ה...
But I have a moment where the tresse closes, and then it's too late to change stories. We can make solutions like quatrième nœud, there are operations that we can do, but we won't change deeply the situation. That's the reason why I work with very small babies, to be able to allow the story to be different.
יש שאלות?
It means that you think that the baby is able to, that you can make a therapeutic intervention at this level. For example, to stimulate the baby to look for the other. For example, to do these movements that
I would be behavioral therapist if I have done. No, you're going to see in the case how I do behave, but I have to find a way to allow the baby to feel he is His Majesty the baby, and then probably the baby will enter in that story. But I am in the position of therapist, psychoanalyst. I can make illusory anticipation even where there is something like that. Parents can't. That's my job. I'm paid for that. To have illusory anticipation, to look marvelous things, even where there is nothing, or very small, and the baby enters in the story.
Another question there.
מה מביא הורים בגיל כל כך צעיר להביא את התינוקות שלהם?
What makes parents to bring such young babies to you?
So, parents now, they go to internet. And they go to internet when the baby is not looking at them. And if they have a child, a bigger child, they look and they see autism. Because that's written everywhere in the internet. Oh, the baby is not looking, danger, danger, danger. So they try to see what they can find about baby and autism. And they find my movies, I don't know how. That's one situation. The other, we worked for 15 years with 1,000 pediatricians, the doctors who takes care of babies in all France. They are trained, so they send also babies. And the third thing is when they have one child, autistic child, they know that there is danger for the other. This situation, but I'm very impressed by, so I receive very particular families that want help. I'm not working with schizophrenic mothers or very depressed mother in a day hospital. I have this marvelous position of people calling me and saying, please help us. And till now I can receive them for nothing in government, des consultations de l'État.
התייעצות מטעם המדינה, במסגרות ציבוריות.
I don't know what will happen next year because I can't continue because of my age, so I don't know what I will do. But till now I can do it. And so I'm training other psychoanalysts desperate to be able to do this same kind of reanimation with babies, because people are asking each time more. And before the fact that within some months we will have scientific publications of research on early signs on autism in 4 and 9 months, scientific publications. So that moment there will be lots of people asking for help, and we must train colleagues very seriously, because it takes time to be able to work so differently with babies. We analysts, we used to listen to the mother, to speak a little bit with the baby, but not to make reanimation. That's something special.
היא מדברת על ההחייאה.
Very quickly, what we could imagine of some kinds of child psychosis. But for sure we will have many examples, so only to show that it can be different. I have no reason to imagine the baby suffering. The baby can be His Majesty the baby, and generally with psychotic mothers they don't stop. So it's His Majesty the baby, and she continues exciting the baby. And we can have, it's a form of psychosis with a mirror stage, but oh no, I have to have a mirror. That's what mathematically the knot needs. I have to have otherwise a difficulty in the Urbild of the mirror stage. It means let's come back. I'm sorry, I said stupid things. That must be difficult. It's one of the possibilities. That's always the possibility. It's wrong because there is excitation and not castration. We are in psychosis. The baby is not suffering necessarily. Here I had a problem in the Urbild, but I have the mirror stage. And here I have always a problem because I'm in psychosis. So the castration of the entrance in the adipose or the out of the adipose is never good. Mm-hmm. And I have a different problem, is the symbolic, who is not connected with the other two. That's very near what Colette Soler said when she said the problem in psychosis is separation. The problem in autism is alienation. I don't know why we don't work more through this. We have another kind of psychosis possible. We have many. That what I want is that for me psychosis is a problem in the Borromean knot, letting out the symbolic. And in autism, what is out is the body, and it's always like that. You have big problems with babies, with children with autism. They don't know how to deal with their body. Mm-hmm. So you can have, generally it's not necessarily babies suffering. You can have, here you have a good entrance in the Urbild. The mother is able to feel the baby well, she's looking at and he's doing what's necessary. The third time, when the baby must be put in bed, that's never good. And probably it's not a baby who suffers. And here I have a problem with the mirror stage. Marcel Cermak wrote a lot about difficulties in adult psychotic without mirror stage. I'm not specialized in that, so I would say stupid things if I continue. And you always have problems in the organization of the separation, the symbolic organization. And here you will have also a knot where the symbolic, it's the blue one, it's behind, but it's not connected with the two others. Can we see that? That's, for me, psychosis is always that. The symbolic is not connected with the two others. Autism is always the imaginary, and the difficulties with these children are always imaginary. Alors, so with the knot theory and a new possibility to think structure, psychical structure, can allow us to find very different things that are not psychosis, neurosis, and perversion. Here I'm studying the difference between autism and psychosis, but you can study also the état limite.
מצבי גבול.
Borderline, because you don't need to put borderline also in psychosis. You can, the first time I saw a beautiful explanation of changes in the Borromean knot and the problems were Brazilian from Bahia, Aurélio de Souza. He loves topology, psychiatry, psychoanalyst. He has a group in Bahia, and he was the first who 20 years ago, 10 years ago, no, 20, he said we can use the Borromean accidents to understand other pathologies. And we were going to Brussels together for a congress. I said to him in the train, you know what will happen when you explain all this? No. They will say, probably Marcel Charmac will say. But when Lacan was doing all this knots in the seminar, when he went to Henri Roussel in Sainte-Anne to make the presentations of the ill people, he continued using neurosis, psychosis, and perversion. So why didn't he use? So we have not to use it. And the answer that my psychoanalyst is not God. Sorry, not Moshe receiving the loss. He has to have time to be able to take out the consequence of his own discoveries. Some persons imagine he was God, teaching us part by part because we are poor persons. No, he was discovering also. I remember him, I was young, and it was very easy for me to put symbolic, real, and imaginary. Now I take a lot of time, but I didn't understand for what. And he was doing it. Oh no, it was not right. He do it again. I was so nervous. I wanted to take things of him and make them not, because it took so much time to him. He was 72. I was very young. It was very easy. So, but I didn't know for what will I use that. So I think that these tools are very interesting, and Lacan died without having the time to use them and to reconsider all the story of structures in the light of these elements, and to make together topology and clinics. He has done it only for Joyce. He hadn't had time. He was old and tired. And it's marvelous. He gave us tools, but we have to use them. But I was sure he will, my Brazilian, because in Brazil we are not so, we are able to sing things that haven't been said before. In France it's more like that, oh, it's not written, so we can't. I hope in Israel we were like Brazilians. So it's normal that Angela is from Brazil, I'm from Brazil, and Aurélio are from Brazil, because we're not imagining that God didn't say so, it doesn't exist. We can try to use elements, you see. So I hope you're more like South Americans than like Europeans. Okay? Is it good like that? I run as much as I could.
טוב, יש לנו זמן לשאלות? Questions?
So now we can discuss. We have all time to discuss. I run a little bit because I wanted to have a discussion with you or not. Yes.
Yes. I was thinking like that. In the beginning with Klein and other psychoanalysts, we were thinking that the mother she's the guilty. She's the culpable. No? The guilty is in the mother. So we were...
Do you think that Melanie Klein thinks that?
Yes, yes. Because the good, okay, this is what I am thinking. The good breast and the bad breast and all these things and the mother...
Yeah, the good bless and the bad bless is in the head of the baby, huh?
Yes, yes, but the mother must to be the good. Okay, but it was like that, and I was thinking that a lot of parents of autistic children were against psychoanalysis because psychoanalysis used to put the guilty in their mind, in the mother. So what I am thinking, what are you saying is that the mother, she is not the guilty, but she is the responsible.
No, she's not the responsible. She is the victim.
But she does make better. She has to
She
make
can't.
better.
Alone it's impossible. You wouldn't, I wouldn't. Melanie Klein would, nobody could. Because with this kind of baby, they destroy the ability of becoming the big other. So she's victim, she's not, absolutely not responsible. That's my fight with my boss, Melman. It's a big fight, real big fight. We love each other to work with Palestinians, Israeli, and lots of things like that. But about the responsibility of the mother, we are not in the same. No, she is the victim of the story.
Because she is the victim. Maybe that we need a team.
For
And
sure.
Not to put it in the mother, because it's a very hard job to make alive a child that is coming without the possibility of communication.
For sure, but you know she's victim very quickly since the beginning, because this baby who does not move, who does not call,
Yes.
Let me find my, I'm going to, it's very cold in Israel.
Well, we can change, huh?
No, but I can dress, no, don't mind, I will dress.
Yeah, it is cold.
So that's a very important point you are bringing with. I have a presentation that I couldn't, but if one day I come back to Israel, I will do it. It's the mother is a journalist,
Mm-hmm.
so she speaks very well. She says what probably lots of mothers think or would like to think, but they can't express so clearly. And she had a premature baby in danger of death because there was a crazy story. It doesn't happen very often. The umbilical cord lost blood, and they are not the same group, the mother and the baby. So the body of the mother attacked the baby. She has nothing to do with that. It's a problem. Generally, the cordon does not lose blood. So they took out the baby 2 months before, and they said to her, 2 hours more and the baby was dead. And it was terrible for her because she was saying all time the baby could become also autistic because this baby has probably high sensitivity level and you can be premature and almost to die and be in contact. There's not connection. This baby was not in contact. He arrived to meet the day he had the day she has to give birth. She arrived, so she phoned from the other part of France. She lives in Paris, and we have a session the day the baby was supposed to be born. very touching for me. And it was a legume vegetable. I don't know if you say that for babies, but terrible. So we worked through, and then the baby came back. The baby has il était en alors comment on dit ça? Anemia. He was, it's terrible because the floor to give blood for somebody, it's number 8, let's see. And the baby was 7.9, but they didn't give blood because if you give blood, the body does not works. The body lets the new blood arriving. So the doctors were trying to make the body of the baby fight against this anemia. So he was so tired. And when the baby started looking at me, and he was not so terribly out of, his body was not in so terrible condition, she said, no, I know I'm not guilty. I have done nothing. And then she continues, oh, and then know that for the next baby I won't kill him. Because there is nothing, it's not a problem with me. It's not because I have some organic. It was a coincidence because, okay, this one I almost killed it, but the other no. I almost killed it. So one part of her work saying, and she was right, that she has no guilt in that story. The other was saying, I almost killed it. So we human beings, we have the terrible way of the tendency of putting us in the cause of everything. Unconsciously, all human being is cause, and all mothers are. And then if you give a little bit aliment, if you alimento,
Mazon.
For that tendency, who is inside all mothers, so then it grows up. You know what I'm doing with mothers? I say to them that I have to teach castration. You know what's castration? Is that all that is happening and you have nothing to do with. And not even if there is a tsunami, you're not responsible for the tsunami. You will have to deal with the fact that a terrible story arrives and you are not even the cause. And that's castration. Castration of unconscious omnipotence. That all we mothers, we have that unconscious of. So if you say responsible, you are making a vocum in this unconscious omnipotence. You see? No. Sorry. It's terrible, a pity. You are not in the center of the world. I'm sorry. You have to deal with the fact you are not. Yes?
Yes. So maybe if we take the point of victim, that the mother is the victim, maybe that we have more autistic children because mothers are very alone.
Yes, you are right that the environment is a problem.
It's not to be with the
yes, and these babies.
Where could be another person
yes.
to give stimulus.
We don't have so clear correlation with that, but we have some correlations that go in your direction. For instance, mothers that were born in a different country with a different language. So these babies who are absolutely not able to respond, some mothers will be more in conditions to find a way than others who are not so pas aussi aidés, pas aussi
not helped as much.
So there is a certain correlation, but the biggest correlation is genetic. Imagine then when you have twins, des frères, des jumeaux, des vrais jumeaux.
תאומים זהים.
You have between 50, but it's more 70% of correlation. If the twins are two brothers and sisters, or two brothers, and not the same, it's 20% or 25%. It's complete. You must make a little bit mathematics. If there is, I think that there is something in these babies that doesn't allow them, let's see, to have a good filter. I have to come back to project. The project? In the project, you know what Freud says, that you have big quantities of energy that arrive. And the real issue is going to make from this quantity small quantities, small amounts. You remember?
Yeah.
Some babies does not have this that goes well. And you have to do that for them, and it's a big job. And they are probably, as they don't have this filter, when they suffer in the womb, it's not a sufferance as a regular baby. It's an enormous amount of suffering. That's a hypothesis. The paper is translated in Hebrew, huh?
כן.
on empathy.
יש שאלה מאחור ונתחיל לסיים. Another question. שאל באנגלית אולי?
Can you put, because if I see your mouth, I will be less problems to understand English.
Okay. In the brain, there are two instances of the real going over the symbolic. Can you repeat what's the difference between the two?
The real and the symbolic, or the two moments?
The two
Yes.
instances of the real over the symbolic.
For me, it's connected with the question of the project. The same. It's the fact that the Nebenmensch, the mother, they have to be able to put the excitation down, and these babies who suffered so much, it's very difficult. And it's not enough, because when you treat, the baby is not suffering so much. The mother says it's the day and night, the so big difference. But it doesn't make the baby able to make movements. But as the baby is not suffering, so maybe we can pass to another question. But for me, the two times is the same story. But you know, we're reading that. I'm not saying it is like that. These are metaphors that can help me to understand what I have to do. It's not scientific reality. It's metaphors.
But still, what is the difference?
For me, it's a time difference only. Because you don't remember that number 5, it's the moment of the mirror stage, and for that Lacan wants time. There is, he hates to speak on different moments, but for that he wants time.
Okay, another question, or
Thank you
we
very
stop?
much.
What do you wish? Should we stop? Or another question? טוב.
Thank you very much. I think that
תודה רבה. Thank you very much.
And second part is pure clinic. We are going to see together a baby and the mother and finish with topology and so on.